Hello, it is Heather from The Reading Mama, and today I'm going to give you my mid-April reading wrap-up, but because I've read a lot of books. We'll see if I have one at the end of the month because I'm kind of hitting a slump now. So I did a lot of audiobooks. We've had sickness like crazy. I am the only one who has not gotten the stomach bug yet, so praying pretty hard that it skips me. That said, I've been up a lot with kids, and so a lot of audiobooks. But first up was Tempest at Annabelle's Lighthouse, which is by my very first Jamie Jo Wright, which is a Christian mystery thriller. It was very interesting. I thought it was like going to be a ghost story, and then it just like threw me for a loop. There were a couple elements I didn't like. I talked to some Chantel about, because she had recommended Jamie Jo Wright, and in that she kind of like, she's a married woman, she's an author, she's going to this lighthouse to learn about this ghost story that's around there so she can write a book about it. She's also struggling in her marriage, and so when she gets there, she's trying to have this time away, to have me time, grow herself, because she heard in some conference or retreat or whatever that that's what she needed to do, and that was the right thing to do. And so she's like yearning pretty hard after the landlord of the lighthouse that she's renting, and so that was kind of icky. I did love the way that she had the marriage portion go, because I feel like it was very honest, and just I'm glad it went the way it did, because I was getting ready to turn the book off because I don't do affairs, and it did not end up in an affair. So, and it also did not end up being a ghost story. I mean, it is a ghost story, but it's not. That would also be a no for me. So I've gone on to read another Jamie Jo Wright, which I'll talk about in a minute, but I just was not prepared for thriller. I have been out of the mystery thriller realm for a while, and so my heart was not prepared for everything that was going on, and I really did enjoy it. It goes back and forth in time, which I also appreciated. It is a little heavy hitting. It was not, of the two I've read, it was not my favorite, but I did enjoy the story. I then read Of Mice and Men audio, and it was horrible. Wow, why is this a classic? Why are we having kids read this? I can see why some places might ban it. That's a lot of vulgarity, a lot of swears, yeah. It is not one of our books that we're gonna read in our home, because it was just so much swearing, so much vulgarity. And yeah, I get the point he's trying to make there, but no, it was not the book for me. Of Mice and Men follows two brothers during the Depression era, and they're going to a new farm, and brothers, cousins, whatever. And one has some handicaps about him, and he is a little slower, and the other looks out for him. But his tendencies become to aggressively love things, to the point that it's a problem, and it ends really gruesome, and it just, I don't recommend it. Then I listened to War of the Worlds, read by the cast of Star Trek Next Generation, and as a daughter of a Trekkie, I loved every second of it. Beverly Crusher reading to me, Spock reading to me, yes, or not Spock, yeah, actually Spock. I loved it. I loved it. Give me more Leonard Nimoy and whoever plays Beverly Crusher reading to me, because it was phenomenal. It did not have Shatner. That probably would have ruined it. But it was a great reading. They did it very much the way that Orwell did it when he first put it on the radio, and it was great. If you don't know the story of War of the Worlds, or not, what did I say? Orwell? Wells. Sorry, H.G. Wells, not Orwell. But H.G. Wells wrote this story, War of the Worlds, where they're seemingly just in regular radio broadcast, and then they interrupt it because something has landed in a farm field, and they go to investigate it, and then they're reporting what happens, and then this robot type thing comes up from the ground, and it starts annihilating people. And you follow the story throughout of different people who then, how they're dealing with this new catastrophe. If you've seen the new movie with Tom Cruise, okay, new, I think that's like 15 years old, but it's not, it doesn't quite follow the story perfectly, just so you know. I then listened to Horse and His Boy, and I didn't remember, even my oldest and I were talking about this, like, I don't remember this being one of my favorites, but I really loved it this time. I really loved The Horse and His Boy. I'm still working on rereading the Narnia series, and I actually really enjoyed this. You follow, what are their names? Shasta and, what's the girl's name? Erebus? Yes, Erebus. Shasta is a young boy who has been a slave all his life, and he's trying to escape with a horse who is Narnian, who can talk. And along the way, he runs into a young girl who is wealthy, who is also trying to escape. They have a lot of backstory. I'm not getting into all that. They're all trying to get to Narnia. Along the way, they run into Lucy, who is like trying to be roped in to marry some rich guy who is not a good guy. They help learn about Narnia. They help learn about this other country, and I can't even remember what the name is, where they realize that, because the Chlormen are where they're from, but then what are the other people? I don't remember. Oh, I don't know. Anyways, there's another people group, the horse people in the mountains, that they find out that Shasta is from. That is who he's from. And so there's a lot that goes on. There's a battle. There's a lot of coming of age, growing, and just beautiful story, and I really did enjoy it. Then I read Bluebeard's Bride by Mary Meacham. I did this as a digital ebook, so I will try to pop a picture in here if I can. But Bluebeard's Bride follows a Aladdin retelling and Bluebeard retelling. So now if you know the story of Bluebeard, it is gruesome. It is a gruesome fairy tale. And that's how it starts out, with this female Aladdin character taking the place of her sister to try to save them from being hauled off to jail and further punished. She marries Bluebeard. Come to find out, he ain't the saint everybody thinks he is. She ends up transporting herself to another kingdom, which is actually from one of the previous books, The Assassins of Fire and Ice. And there she lands with a vizier who is trying to find out how she got there and wants to get her back for various reasons that I don't want to disclose. A couple things that I didn't love about it. I get it, Bluebeard's like trying to murder her, and he's murdered several other wives before her, and so she wants to dissolve that marriage because it wasn't even a real marriage. It was just like he needed her to keep the house kind of thing. But there's that, which is kind of icky. And then there was a relationship building with the vizier because it's a romance. It's very clean, no spice, all that. And there's a lot of great fun banter, but just keep that in mind that that's kind of like a weird fairy tale line that in the real world it's kind of me, but in fairy tale world it's okay for whatever reason. And then I read The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst, and it was so cute, so cozy. A couple caveats. I really did love it. It had a couple mentions of things that go against my Christian beliefs, and if you are really, really interested, I can let you know. But I don't want to put them on here. Just know that they were not necessarily conservative worldviews about certain relationships. Other than that, it was a really sweet story with no spice, just a sweet story. So a young girl, what is her name? Why can't I think of it? It starts with a K. Anyways, she's leaving the big city where she had lived because there's a rebellion coming on. She's been working in the library and kind of holed up, like she lives in the library. I stay in my little sector of library. I don't mess with people. I've got my plant who talks to me and I'm good. And she has to flee for her life, and she takes a couple of crates of books because, you know, the library's on fire from the rebels. We gotta save the books. That's what all librarians do, right? And she flees in a boat, and she's like, where do I go? Where do I go? She goes back to her home island. She gets there, she finds there's all kinds of problems, and she's like, well, maybe some of the spells in my books could help our island. And maybe I could open a spell shop under the cover of being a jam shop, because spells are kind of outlawed by anybody who's not supposed to do it. And I don't know who's in charge. Is it the rebels? Is it the monarchy? What's going on here? So we're going to keep everything on the DL. It's very cute, very sweet. She has a lot of anxiety because she has been so individualistic for so long that it was giving me anxiety as I read it. But it was very sweet, and I loved the story overall. And like I said, there was just that one, like a few sentences that was like, I had to put that in there. Then I listened to Curse of Misty Wayfarer by Jamie Jo Wright, and that was better than Tempest on Annabelle's Lighthouse because there wasn't a whole bunch of yearning for somebody she's not married to. It again comes across as a ghost story, and you follow two timelines, but this time we're dealing with people who have mental issues and a former asylum that happened to be in an area. And so you follow some of the stories of people who were alive when the asylum was first built and what was going on then, and then you follow people in the future and what is going on in the connections, and you deal with a lot of anxiety. You deal with a lot of depression and not being fully accepted, not knowing your place in the world, and kind of finding a family and finding a place and realizing that you too, you have a place. It may not look the same as everyone else's. And it was really a beautiful story in the end. I just really loved it. So I'll be reading more Jamie Jo Wright. Then I read In the Fields of Grace by Tessa Afshar, and I absolutely loved it. This is a Ruth retelling. And do I need to say more? It's a Ruth retelling that's just beautiful. And I loved it because in this one, Naomi loves Ruth, though she gets a little lost in her depression for a while, but she ultimately has a love for Ruth. Ruth has a deep love for Naomi, and the way that they lived. I love the backstory of Mahlon and Chilion, which are Ruth and Orpah's husbands, or Naomi's sons, who died in Moab before they return. And you have kind of this beautiful story of Ruth being, the youngest daughter in a family that's just forgotten. Nobody cares about her. I think she's kind of weird because she dotes on people. She eventually, of her own volition, gives up her false gods because she can see that they're not the kind, considerate gods that the Israelite God is. There's not the mercy and love that they talk about. And I just love that that's what made her fall in love with Mahlon and Chilion and Naomi's family, because that they had a love for God. And ultimately that's what brings her to Boaz and his love for her. And then it goes on through their marriage, gives a little bit of a interesting story. If you have struggled with infant loss or things or barrenness, it does touch on those topics, so I'm going to give you a little trigger warning for that, but I think it does it very gracefully, but there is that in there. Next up, I read The Golden Key. What is it? George MacDonald. This is a weird fairy tale, and I do not like Maurice Sendak's art. I just don't. He's got a creepy edge to him. He's just creepy. Some of it's okay, but like, look, her eyes look like death. Anyways. So in the story, we follow two children who basically get lost in the woods and stumble upon a woman in a house who has flying fish that leads them to the house, and then the flying fish are eaten, but then they are turned into fairies, and when you eat their fish bodies, you get different skills, like you can talk to the animals. I don't know. And then they're going on a journey to find these people. They stay together. The boy has found the golden key at the end of a rainbow. I sound like a crazy person. It's a crazy story. I don't know that it's really supposed to have a point. I'm actually really glad that I read the afterword, because I feel like it made a little more sense by telling you that, like, that's what fairy tales are meant to be, that they're not, they don't have to have this great big moral thing. They can just be a story of imagination and creativity. And I thought that that was very helpful because, yeah, there was some crazy going on here. It's very imaginative. It's very weird. It would take me a while to sit and think if I really wanted to look for deeper meanings. I feel like it was more like a story that one of my kids started, and then it just kept going and going and going. And it was sweet and beautiful, and I cried at the end. But that it was kind of like, what happened along the way, and what did I just read? But I did, like I said, I was crying, and a book makes me cry. I'm like, hey, it's a winner. And then I read The Beggar Prince by Kate Stradley. I don't love this cover. I don't like covers with people, like, it's not for me. Anyways, the story though, phenomenal. This is a Thrushbeard retelling, which I've read her other Thrushbeard retelling, which is The Maiden Minstrel, which is a little novella. But this is a really great, and it's coming from, you get the whole perspective. I guess that's what the series is, Once Upon a Prince. You get from his perspective, and it's just great. If you don't know Thrushbeard, Thrushbeard is a Grimm's fairy tale where basically the girl is being forced to marry people. Her father lines them up, and she gives him all these horrible names and nicknames because she doesn't want to marry him. Refuses to marry him, so dad gets mad and says, fine, next beggar who comes to the house, you're marrying him. You don't get to marry these royal guys who came here because they weren't good enough for you. And then they get forced into marriage. And this follows that fairly well to an extent. And it just, I love how reading the same author, the same fairy tale but a different way of retelling it was really kind of neat, because she does such a different, I don't know, it was just really neat, the reason why she called them names. His perspective of it was very interesting. This is a series called Once Upon a Prince where there are multiple authors write fairy tales from the prince's perspective. So that actually is kind of interesting to me. So I might go through some of those. But I love Kate Stradling. I've loved every book I picked up from her because I just really, really enjoy her fairy tales, fantasy, and all that. But yeah, it tells that story, and you go through, you kind of see he's obviously the prince. He's pretending to be a beggar. She was a duchess, I don't know, princess, I don't know. I can't remember what her father was. He was some kind of royalty, and she is forced to marry the beggar who comes to the door, and the story continues. I'm not going to give it away. Then I read 84 Charing Cross Road. I did not expect to like this. Chantel at Chantel Reads All Day has recommended this in several videos of the years, and I was like, I don't like letters. I'm not going to read that. And this, honestly, the description was not, it's like a woman who lives in America in the 70s writing to a bookseller in London to get books. Doesn't sound that interesting. Oh my goodness, the friendship, the love, the kindness, the just hilarious off the cuff comments that she makes in her letters are just phenomenal. Also, it made me cry. Did not expect that, but it was just really beautiful, and it's a short, simple read. So not like need to commit. I read it in a night easily, with interruptions, but it was just so beautiful and so poignant, and I absolutely loved it. So yeah, 84 Charing Cross Road. Go ahead and read that. Then I read Animal Farm. I did this audiobook. I do have a physical copy. This was a reread. I'm counting it as my reread classic for the Spring Into Classics Challenge. Every time I read Animal Farm, I get something new. I don't know. So I read Animal Farm, and then I've started a book which is why I'm kind of in a reading slump, because I started a World War II historical fiction based on true events. Probably not the best combo, because everything that happened in Animal Farm, I'm like, oh, but that was his point. And so anyways, Animal Farm, if you don't know, is a satirical treatise on communism and fascism. I don't know. Anyways, the evils of all of that. And you have a farm where they have kicked off the wicked farmer who gets drunk all the time and doesn't treat them well, and basically the pigs take over. And they make these rules, and over time they, everybody keeps working for the common good, but some people's common good is better than others. And the animals learn this along the way, and you see the different ways that it is manipulated. You see the different ways that people can rise or fall in that regime. You see different ways that the regime is manipulated and how they manipulate the masses. The importance, one of the things that really stuck out to me, the importance of making a body illiterate. Because if they're illiterate, they can't check up on you. And so you can say, here's the proof, but they can't read. So, is it the proof, or is that just like gibberish on paper? Who knows? So Animal Farm, highly recommend, great. And so yeah, that is what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 books so far in April, and I don't know what day it is. It's sometime in the middle of April. And I have more books to read. I'm in the middle of several. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, I've kind of hit a reading slump for the month. Part of that is because we've been sick all week and I'm exhausted. The other part is I'm just, So I've got a couple of really phenomenal books keyed up and started. I'm in the middle of Saints and Monsters, which I love, but I keep getting interrupted. I like that one that I'm gonna have to go get. I'm in the middle of, what is it? It's a Mario Escobar book, The Forgotten Names, and that is phenomenal. But like I said, after Animal Farm, it's like, it's too heavy. It's hurting. And then I started Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard to compare if it's like Perilous, and it is. It is a lot like Perilous, and now I'm questioning that entire series. But I'm enjoying Red Queen. That's really well written, and I like that. And from what I can understand in that whole whatever is that Red Queen tends to be more world building and fantasy and political intrigue versus the other, which is more romantasy. And I'm all here for the world building and political intrigue, but it's a little heavy. So yeah, that's what I'm reading right now. And let me know what you've been reading this month. And also, if you're joining in on some phenomenal readathons. So I have the Happy Readathon, and I've done all but one. And I've done the Spring Into Classic, which I've done all but two. And then I have my poetry one, which as of tomorrow, I will have all the way up to this one up on this channel for you to see if you're wanting to do it along with me. And I only have 4 poems left to read. I'm also reading another book, which is somewhere. It's Windleberry poems that are just phenomenal, and I'm loving it. So that's what's going on this April. Thank you for watching, and have a blessed day.